So they were still fresh. So I walked around everywhere, I went to the bushes, went to every single location, went to the aerodrome, saw the pipelines, the vandalized ones after the war, and so on and so forth. I saw all of these. Now, I am from the Equatorial Kingdom, where as we speak now, about 60,000 barrels of oil equivalent of gas is being siphoned every day. That is well over 2 billion naira. That is happening. I went to the army. Okay, I'm a member of 38 regular corps. I've also been an activist, particularly when I left the army, I became very vocal in terms of looking at these injustices. So I did that as well. I'm a traditional ruler. I also live in the Equatorial Kingdom. I live in the Niger Delta. I've also taught almost everywhere in the Niger Delta that has to do with oil and gas. And then, of course, I've been to a bit of school, not much of school. Traditional ruler, not much of school, but sufficient to be able to tell this story. More so, what will you do if you're in my shoes? When someone says you're the thief, when really, he's the thief and you know it. So thieves have been calling us thieves for so long when they are really the thieves. So it was like, let us correct this before it is too late. Because very soon perhaps the oil wells will run dry, and then the story will remain that sometimes. In fact, the other part is that, particularly for security agencies, when they come to the Niger Delta, they come with their mindset of coming to deal with those bloody economic saboteurs, those pipeline vandals, those oil thieves. That's the psychology. Luckily, because of my background, I meet most of them, I interrogate them. So the first thing I do essentially is to ask a few key questions, and then I realize that it's like we came with the wrong mindset. So as a matter of fact, this is recommended reading for every soldier, every police, every security agent in this country as a first measure. Otherwise, don't come to the Niger Delta. Because when you read it, you will understand what your duties are. And you will understand who you want to consider as the enemy of state. The enemy of state is not anywhere around the Niger Delta. They are somewhere maybe around here or there.
Okay, so I'm very glad that there are various mediums of documenting our stories. Some people choose film, some people, you've chosen a book. I want to know if you're looking to any other medium, say a documentary, because I've been reading it and I've been telling myself that, this is something people need to see. And people who are not going to be able to read, are we looking to have like a documentary somewhere, somehow?
Yes, a lot of persons have told me, like the first young woman I gave this document to, manuscript. She read it, I don't know if she cried, she said she cried like 20 times. Anyway, she's from Nigeria, she made me so she cried like 20 times, and she feels that this book can make like 20 movies, and blockbuster movies like that. So the documentaries and the movies and all will come. But like a friend of mine who is a cinematographer, he says that it's usually good for the book to remain in the market out there for a while before the film comes. But some young persons have talked about short films and all of that, and documentaries and so on. So that is out there. We're looking for, waiting for the right experts to come and let's because it's very important. I believe that if you understand this book, you will understand why Nigeria is the way it is, and then you will also understand what to do to fix it if you want to fix it. I feel that if you give me Nigeria now to handle, in 3 years it will work out. Yes, it can be more than that.
I hope we're taking
No, it's very possible. So if you read it with that type of mindset, you will see everything there. You see that the reason why Nigeria is this not so wonderful is because, for example, about 3 trillion US dollars of oil has been sold as a portion that accrued to Nigeria. And out of it, about 1 trillion US dollars was outrightly stolen. Okay? Put in foreign banks, used outside of this place, as yachts, as what do you call them, as private jets, as golf courses abroad, as refineries abroad, and properties and so on and so forth. So they were never available for the 90 million poorest of the poor persons of the world who are said to be Nigerians. Because if that were there, for example, then I can tell you categorically that there will be nobody to identify as Boko Haram. There will be nobody to identify as unarmed bandit. There will be no bandits, right? Bandit. There will be nobody to be called bandit, unknown gunmen, kidnapper. Even armed robbers will not be there. Because looking at you, I can't see you be an armed robber. I don't think you can do that. So when you have the training, once you have the education and you have the business, okay, and your family also are gainfully engaged, you don't need to go and rob anybody. I've been to places, even in this country sometime, where your car is not an issue. Nobody is bothering about whether it's comfortable. Nobody is going to attempt it. But you can agree with me that there are parts of Lagos today, and even if you take a 1914 Beetle there, by the time you enter somewhere and come out, someone is moving something.
Yeah.
And then when you confront, you say, ordinary time I want it, now you won't keep me waiting, now I'm going to survive.
Okay, so let's go back to your friend. When I read the book, I didn't cry per se. No, you said somebody read the book. Okay. Your friend read the book and then you said she cried. I didn't cry. For me, it was more like, interestingly, it gave me a little bit of happiness. You know, that so much knowledge has been put down. You know how they say, my people perish for lack of knowledge. You know, but I did have a painful chapter. And I'm going to share my painful chapter, and I'm going to ask you that read the book, your most painful chapter. Mine was the one titled Boom and Doom. You know, and that chapter speaks about how one region that has been declared as the most economical in terms of your profits by the oil corporations is actually the region that has suffered the most, as you put it, economic strangulation, environmental degradation, crises and crimes against humanity. So that was my most painful chapter. So which of the chapters was your most painful chapter?
It's a little difficult to pinpoint, but there's somewhere towards maybe in the chapters around the 30s, let me say, there's somewhere where women, the girl child, is being brutally abused. Okay? You can imagine when you have like 4,000 men come to this space, okay, to Freedom Park. The 4,000 all men squad come to this park, and we have about 1,005 natives. Okay, so old men, women, and children. Okay, now at the indigenous here. So when you have those 4,000 men, of course you are cut off somewhere in the creeks, okay, and they stay with you, and they are well resourced. They have resources, they have money, they are richer than the poorest of them is richer than the richest man in the community. So you can imagine how much influence they have. And so they abuse your daughters at 12, 13. If you are 14 and 15, it's like you are an adult. So they abuse these girls. They take away your sisters, your daughters, your wives, and so on and so forth, and abuse them. And then nothing happens. Okay? And then the worst one is, in that chapter, I gave an example of Berlusconi, I think that's his name, an Italian president, who was jailed for sleeping with an actress that was rich, comfortable, and jailed for child abuse, for rape. Okay? Now, in the Niger Delta, the facts are there that if you do not have education, you do not have resources at your disposal, your thinking will not be as bright. You will be smiling when you don't mean to smile. You'll be saying yes when you mean to say no. Okay? So in that kind of environment, you carry a so-called pedophilic billionaire there, okay, an oil man. So he goes there and he just abuses them anyhow. Your mother, the daughter, and the wife of the son, and all of that, without squabbles. And someone feels that, but he knows firsthand because she's 35. What? This woman does not have consent anymore. Her life circumstances have made her to be a child, so to speak. It's like someone taking undue advantage of a mad woman. And you say, well, she's 60, so she's an adult. But she's sick. So the circumstances in the Niger Delta have largely made most of the people to be seeking quotes. Okay? So if you are doing that, which, like I tell some people, I say, okay, if you want to know, if you want to argue that the Niger Delta woman is loose, okay, then I want to challenge the MD of Shell International to come to Nigeria, okay, and go and approach, go and meet the chief judge of Bayelsa State. She's a woman. Her name is Kika. Okay? So she's the chief judge. So go and meet her. And then toast her. Okay? And come back with evidence. Okay? Because it won't happen. She has the resources, she has the education, she has the position. So you can't even get close to her. So why won't people see that those women, even though they are in their 30s or 40s or 20s, are so vulnerable because their grandfathers had no job, their fathers had no job, they don't have jobs, and they are not also well educated. So this is what they call weaponization. You've taken my resources and used them as weapons to deal with us. And even when we try to complain, we are,
quite passionate. And I actually see, if you people read the book, every now and then, there's a reference to his wife, Her Royal Majesty. Her name is in my head, So, and it's interesting that if you read, you see that I think she's a doctor, right?
No, she's not a doctor.
Okay, but she works in some medical field.
You are mixing it up.
Okay, I am.
You are mixing it up. The reference to Her Majesty is only at the beginning. But it is the, what they call protagonist, right? The main character.
Where is Amara, your publisher?
Yes, the main character of the book, who is General Buba, is the one whose wife is a medical doctor and works somewhere.
Here we are. Who is Colonel Buba?
Colonel Buba is real, but also not real. So the name is adjusted just to make sure that no one is identified as that person who came to the palace to visit the king and then started this process.
So Colonel Buba is not
No,
for your majesty.
Brigadier.
Brigadier Buba is not for your majesty.
Not
Buba, right? It's not. Okay, because it took me a while to get to understand that. If you read the book, in fact, I think at this point you could say that there are three narrators in the book. There's this Brigadier Buba, there's yourself, and then there is also interestingly Wokolo, who is said to be, I liken her to what the Igbos would call the goddess Annie, like the spirit of the Niger Delta. What inspired your using her as part of your narrative?
Okay, I've been an activist before I became a king, and I've been a soldier as well. And the Jaws are largely self-confident warriors. That's what we always defended our territories. And I've been more like schooling visitors to the Niger Delta from time. Since I left the military, I've been like schooling them when they come by me. Let them understand, take them to oil well one, take them to this place, take them to village sites, and so on and so forth. I've been doing that. But I discovered that, of course, also talking to my friends and colleagues, former colleagues. But I saw that the time I spent with them was never sufficient. Okay, so I speak with you for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Definitely not enough for you to be smart enough to understand issues. And of course, people come by, running their PhDs, doing a master's degree, come around, they want to know about oil and gas, tell you a lot of things, go back and get your degree. But it's like, I think I should do a little more. I should have a reference material so that after our interaction, you could go back, and then if you want more, you have more. So that was another key motivating part of it. So essentially, this is now going to fill that gap. I believe we'll always have a couple of copies in the palace for particularly first-time visitors. If you have not seen it before, this has to be what you must take away. And then if you are doing research, again, this is it. So, yes, a friend read through the manuscript and he said that, he says, it's like there are 2 or 3 aspects of me in the book. But if you know me a little better, you will say, if you know me a little better, you will say that there are much more than 3 aspects of the king in the book. Okay? But they are there just to make sure that the story hits home. It is a very sensitive, touchy story. However, it has to be like food, palatable. It has to be tasty. It has to drive home the facts and figures without leaving you bored. So that these factors were taken into cognizance. Now, Wokolo, even in terms of the naming, at a point, just want to take this book for it to be a universal book, something everyone would like to identify with. Okay, that was considered. I look back at Things Fall Apart, and what Things Fall Apart was written by a 20-something-year-old man in the 50s. Okay, so if I'm writing this book as a very old man of 106, for example, it should be a wonderful book. So one was determined to make it as wonderful as it could be, but still have an effect. And then, given the fact that the subject itself is an explosive subject, it was also okay to play safe, so that someone does not come tomorrow morning and say, oh, you know, my papa name is this, and my mama name is this. So we have to look at it. Wokolo, yes, like someone said yesterday, my surname is Nakolo, and then there's this other Jimmy or somebody is Wokolo. But Wokolo is also an Ijaw word that means our voice. Okay, Daokolo, my surname is Dakolo. Daokolo is actually Daokolo, which means father's voice. This particular character is Wokolo, which means our voice. So it's the voice of the language elder, it's the voice of the people of that area, it's the voice of those who have been abused and trampled upon, whose environment has been destroyed. So that is the voice we hear.
Very interesting. I'm coming back. I want to go away from the book for a bit.
Okay.
I want us to go to the author just a little bit. You're a traditional ruler, and going back to the Ukolo reference, like I said, I could liken her to, when I was reading, I could liken her to what the Igbos would call the goddess. So I believe that in embracing who we are, our history, our present, we have to embrace it